Hi everyone, this is Rob from RuinWorks, bringing you our latest release, the Stalactite Bridge. This is part of the Ruins of Grunvyr series. The scene consists of 5 levels, as we can see up here in the layer tool: the Stalactite Top, Main Entrance, King's Bridge, Town Bridge, and then the False Bottom. I'll just note that the False Bottom is there mainly to provide a complete scene. When I've completed the Stalactite Basin scene, it will replace this in the Ruins of Grunvyr series, but I'll also leave this here as a separate scene in case people want to use it separately. Going up the Stalactite Bridge, I will start here. This is one level above the main entrance from which players may enter the scene. It is just the top level before the roof of the cavern. It is designed as sort of a lookout post for whoever ran this cavern at one point in my world, the dwarves. And here in the right is a small transform button. Just a circle with a bunch of arrows. Clicking on it will take you through all the available variations for this room. So they include an empty room, a broken bell that might have served as a warning tool, some sort of a brazier that has one-way walls included. So if we bring a token on here, you can see that the brazier has one-way walls, so you can actually climb up these stairs and get to the top. And if you're at the bottom, you can't see through the little pedestal on which the brazier sits. The next option is the brazier but lit, so now there is a light included. And then lastly, we have just a guard room that might have looked out over the entranceway one level below. Going down to the main entrance, we can see here at the bottom of the scene, this path connects to the connections scene and then on to the Great Hall scene. A bridge spans the gap between the stalactite and the cavern wall, and in the right margin for this bridge, I've included some controls here. For the bridge itself, you can either have the intact or broken variations. Right now it is on the intact variation. If you click broken, it will switch the image to the broken image of the bridge. Similarly, you can also add a trap to the bridge by clicking active. It will now show a hashed area over the bridge. This is placed there so you understand where players will trigger the trap. So if any token enters this hashed tile, the trap will be triggered. What happens when that occurs? I'll demonstrate now. So the player hasn't entered the tile yet, but let's say he goes one more step. A message is sent to the GM, the game is paused, and you're asked if you want to activate the trap. Selecting no, we'll just continue the game normally as though nothing has happened, but the trap will still be active. Selecting yes. Of the bridge, and it'll also send a second prompt to the GM asking if the token should be sent down to level -30, which is the bottom, the false bottom level here. So on a no, the token has made its save. It will stay up here, and then if you were to select yes, I'll just reset the trap quickly. Token enters. Elevation is set to -30, so he's appearing on the false bottom elevation. And then just to demonstrate, if we decide to make the bridge intact and turn the trap off, the token can just walk cleanly over the bridge without anything happening. So the setup for this trap is going to be the same for all 3 bridges. I provided the same control panel for each bridge, and I'll show you where those are as I go through the levels. I'll note as I'm moving my token along, I've used drawings in this scene for elevation changes. So here we can see a level stair. That means if you see the word stair, it means that it's 2-way. So the token is descended to the next level, the King's Bridge. You can see our token on the King's Bridge level. If he steps back in, he's sent back up to the main entrance, and you can see him there on the main entrance again. This is slightly different if you see a green drawing with a hashed area in the middle. That means it is a drop. I know there's a couple here because you can jump into this area from different elevations, but they say levels drop and then the elevation between which they are dropping. These are only one way, so a token entering will only go down. So we'll go back down to the King's Bridge level, and here we have the second bridge. If we go into the right margin again, we have our King's Bridge level controls. So right now it's intact with the trap being off. If you hit the broken button, the bridge switches to a broken variation. And if we hit the trap active, the same sort of hashed area shows up. And if you select your token, it will enter the area and the trap will trigger as described for the main entrance bridge. So I'll just switch that off because I don't want to run our token into too much trouble. Here on the right, we have a transform button by E. Clicking on this will allow you to customize the area between empty alcove, a statue on a pedestal, or just the pedestal. The reason I did this was to allow the option of having a golem or other animated statue here, but also to make it not so obvious. If the players come close, you can say the statue animates, you can switch it to just the pedestal, place your golem token down instead, and continue your adventure that way. And there's another transform button here over by the exit to the royal chamber. Clicking on this transform though will just block the tunnel with rubble, so if you don't want to actually have your players go down that way, you can just block it off. Also on this level, we have F down here. This is a pipe that leads into the room from the aqueduct that runs through the mountain entrance scene, down through the Great Hall, through the connection scene, and then would end up popping out here. So this is just another way that your players might enter. If you don't like the idea of the pipes though, you can just click the transform button and have them disappear. This other pipe that kind of spans the gap between two walls has its own transform button, so you can either have a broken variation or just this damage variation. The idea here being that the water that came through the aqueduct and poured into this little pool would go through this pipe and into the living quarters of the dwarves on this side of the room. I'll note that there is an interaction point also at this location. Players can double click that and that will simply change the elevation of their token for them. If he just double clicks on this, he sent a little prompt saying, do you want to use the stairs? You can click yes, and then he can climb the stairs. And he's now on the mountain entrance level. I'll note that the pipe is also an overhead tile, so it'll disappear when a token actually enters. Actually, I forgot, this central alcove in the stalactite can also be customized as another transform button here, which allow you to put in either a brazier or a statue, or have the alcove empty. Down to the town bridge level. Let's see him there now. We come to another bridge, which is also set up the same way as the other bridges. Again, we have our intact broken variations, and we can also activate a trap. I'm not going to go through that a third time. I'll note here though, when you have a token, just so you can see that the chains are overhead tiles, and you can see on the left here above the doors, another statue is being built by the dwarves, and it actually holds the chains that holds the bridge up. This end looks kind of funny when you're looking at it from this elevation. The reason these chains are just kind of floating in the air there, so if you go up the King's Level Bridge, the walls on that level are actually a bit wider than on the Town Bridge level, so the chains are actually attached to the wall above. That's why the chains look a bit funny there. Go back to our token. Once he steps underneath the stone statue, it disappears. It's set as a roof tile, and then the doors will reveal themselves, and you can continue through this passage. I'll note here that there's another transform button for more rubble at this exit in case you do not want to use it. And then lastly, level is the false bottom transform button in the middle of the room. So there's 3 different variations that you can place in the bottom for the false scene. So right now we just have the cave variation. If you click it once, you'll get a water variation. And again, I've included the distortion macro from Token Magic FX to give it a bit of a wiggle to make it look a bit more water-like. And if you click the transform button one more time, you can also make it have lava in the bottom. This variation comes with lights. Anyways, guys, that brings us to the end of the Stalactite Bridge. I hope you like the scene. It looks like the next scene will be the Dungeon Dial Room, as voted by you guys on my Patreon, so I'll be getting to work on that as soon as possible. Hope you like it. See you next month.